Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams, and this is the Hydration with Heart segment brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, hydration that gives back. Today's conversation is one that truly lives at the intersection of grit, grace, and groundbreaking representation. At the heart of it is a new film in production called The Thrift Store. It's a tender story of resilience, young love, and hope set against the gritty backdrop of the 1930s Dust Bowl. But what makes this film especially noteworthy is its leading cast member, Abigail Adams. She's a model, a triathlete, and an actress who happens to have Down syndrome. Abigail herself, also known to her 1.5 million followers as Abigail the Advocate all over social media, and her devoted father who has stood beside her every step of the way. Today we're chatting from diagnoses to Dust Bowl star, how Abigail Adams is redefining disability on the silver screen. We're joined today by the film's revolutionary director, Suresh Cedrick Pereira. He's a Toronto-based filmmaker, an animal advocate, and an entrepreneur. He's known for blending empathy and aesthetics in his storytelling. A longtime supporter of global film festivals and humanitarian causes, he's passionate about creating films that reflect dignity, perseverance, and underrepresented perspectives. Welcome to the show, superstars.
Oh, yeah, we're so glad to be here.
Yes, we are.
Yep.
Welcome back, Abigail.
Thank you.
All right, Suresh, let's get to it. So the Dust Bowl era was one of America's most harrowing environmental and emotional collapses, and yet you found a story of hope buried in that despair. So what inspired The Thrift Store, and what made Abigail the right person to carry the story on screen?
I discovered one evening when I was at a film festival last year, a bunch of photographs by a fellow named Arthur Rothstein. And there's a very iconic image, which is of a family, young family, a father, a son, and a younger son behind him. And they're kind of leaning into the wind in front of their home that's covered with sand. And I imagined a fictionalized account of what that conversation was. So it's a real image, and I licensed a bunch of images from the Rothstein Foundation and some historic video, and decided that there's a really good story here, which is, fictionalized, but it has this true element to it. Amongst this devastation, I imagined this boy is trying to convince his father, irrationally and improbably, to let him spend some money that he has on a gift for a sweetie that he's got in his class. And it's more complicated than that, but that's essentially how it happened. And I've been following Abigail for a couple of years on a couple of social media programs. And I talked to Steve last night about, looking through the window where, she doesn't know who I am, but I'm looking through the window at her and seeing this wonderful person with all this capability. And so I decided to write a part to depict a person with a disability as being the enabler, not the enabled. And so, and I didn't want it to be contrived, so I worked hard at that, at the dialogue there, went back and forth with Steve to make sure that it wasn't, something that was, artificial to the condition, and it had to be realistically written and within the capacity. And he came back with all this warmth that, you've written something really very touching, and it really does fit her personality. So I knew right away that she was the person we wanted.
Wow, that's such a poetic collision. An old photograph meeting a new voice, and your decision to cast Abigail says so much about where you believe the future of storytelling is headed. So thank you for that. Now I'm going to pivot to the beautiful Abigail. Abigail, actress, advocate, athlete. I mean, come on. You are defying all odds, my dear. You completed 15 triathlons. You walked in New York Fashion Week. You appeared in major media campaigns. And now you're starring in a cinematic role that redefines disability from the inside out. So, Abby, so many people still hold outdated ideas of what someone with Down syndrome can or can't do. You and I both know the truth. And you've shattered every mold and even helped rewrite the film industry's casting playbook. How did it feel to get the call from Suresh for this movie? And what excites you most about playing a character who isn't defined by her disability?
I love this role. I wanted to be an actress ever since I was 16. What I really love is the chance to play the role of a person who is kind and helpful. The fact that she has Down syndrome doesn't affect the plot. So it is an opportunity to show that people with disabilities are more alike than different. My character is not a person with a disability who happens to do something good. She is a good person who happens to have a disability.
You're giving young girls everywhere a new kind of role model. So I love that about you. Now, Dad, I'm going to pivot to you. You're such an advocate and lifelong supporter of Abigail's and the quiet force behind a lot of her accomplishments. I mean, you've been her trainer, her champion, and her constant believer. And it's your hands-on parenting and that unwavering belief in inclusion that have helped shape Abigail's unstoppable spirit. So raising a child, your dad is amazing. Raising a child with a disability comes with a host of unknowns, but you seem to always know who Abigail could become even before the world caught on. What were some of the early moments where you realized she was going to break every limitation placed on her?
Well, when Abigail was born, she was obviously diagnosed with Down syndrome. She had a host of other issues that came with that. There was a lot of very low expectations. And I think more importantly than overcoming the expectations is to realize that we should not let other people determine what the expectations can be. And our goal is to never let anyone's low expectations limit your success. We want to know what Abigail can do. You know, we heard many times what people with Down syndrome cannot do. And it's really a question of opportunity. Abigail is a very determined thing. I have helped her, as have many people, teachers, coaches, people like yourself offering your platform to help share this message. You know, these are all, and of course, Suresh with this movie, these are all wonderful opportunities to promote inclusion and acceptance. And so I am amazed on a regular basis at Abigail's determination. I mean, she comes to me. People will say to us, "Why do you make her exercise?" And if anybody's ever had a daughter, they know you can't make them do anything, and they want to do. And so I can assure you that she comes to me and says, "Let's exercise." We were having a conversation just before this where she wants to make sure we get her run in today.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So these are the things we hope to portray through our message in social media. And I'm sure that it's going to be apparent in the movie that Suresh has written and will be directing.
Yeah, that's the definition of vision, believing before there's proof. And you clearly poured that belief into her every single day. Now, Suresh, many films featuring disabled characters tend to lean on pity or tragedy, but in the thrift store, Abigail's character actually helps facilitate a romance. That's a big shift. Why was it so important to you to flip the narrative and cast someone with a disability?
I've seen a number of films that have people with disabilities in them. And going back a long time, I've been a cinephile for many years and attended a lot of film festivals. And you watch them sort of being the person that's being cared for and maybe, you know, in a less than kind way. And I wanted to just turn that into something that was, completely a flip, which was that without Abigail and her character, this story doesn't happen because she enables, without revealing too much what happens in the film, and she basically facilitates a transaction that wouldn't happen without her involvement. And her involvement in the shop, she's in the thrift store and she's running the front of the house, which may be atypical, but it's evolved naturally because mother's been cast. She happens to be also disabled, but in a wheelchair. And so it's evolved over time which you haven't seen, where she's kind of evolved to running it. So I think the dialogue, the perspective that I believe that, that these sort of depictions now, particularly more than any other time, it's, we're facing a lot of weird things in our world and very sad things. It was kind of a nice thing. And honestly, it was done from that perspective. It was, I think she would be the exact person I wanted. And I went out and made it happen through, just kind of approaching and there was other options obviously, but I definitely wanted that characterization. I wanted to depict her, and I just, after watching, I just felt she was perfect, and I believe she's going to be completely perfect.
And that's how real change happens, not by making the story about disability, but by allowing people with disabilities to simply exist as full characters. It's a very simple thing, and Hollywood can't seem to get it right. But thank you for doing that and paving the way for friends like Abigail. Abigail, now I'm going to pivot to you, whether it's the Disney parade or now a feature film. You show up with so much heart and fearlessness, and you always have a message for your fans. So if there's one thing you want people to take away from watching this film and your journey, what would it be?
I want to inspire people with disabilities and those without disabilities.
Well, that's a huge takeaway. And I love that about you, because you want to inspire everybody. And that's at the heart of it all. You're not just acting. You're activating something in people. And you remind me, and I think everyone else, that that determination doesn't have a limit. So thank you. Now,
You're welcome.
Now, Steve, as parents, our job is to build a life where our children feel capable and seen. But with Abigail's platform growing, the world is watching now too. Okay. What has it been like to see her evolve from your daughter to a global advocate with, like Suresh said, 1.5 million followers?
Well, it's really been awesome. I'd say I can't minimize that Abigail has been the driving force. My role as her parent, like all parents, is to give our kids whatever opportunities we can. And I think that's something, particularly if you have a child with a disability, it's a lot of us get caught up in what the world thinks, and we're afraid. We want to protect our children. And so too often, parents of a child with a disability will try to protect them and keep them from participating because they don't want them to be bullied. They don't want them to fail. And I think that's they need to get away from. We need to get away from worrying so much about what other people think. Let's focus on the opportunities, because if you don't try, then you can't succeed. And this is what is really the beauty. I've got to underline what Suresh and you both said. This movie is a story about a girl who is a good person, and she happens to have a disability. It's not about a person with a disability who happens to do something good. I really asked to tell Suresh, I think he's typecast Abigail, because she is just, this is her personality, is to help people. And this is why she's instantly able to make friends in any situation, is because she is genuine. She's sincere, extremely friendly.
Yeah, and to think it all started with just that one belief that she could do more. And it's proof that belief is a superpower, because you poured that into her. And the truth is that she's become so much more than she can ever expect. Now, Suresh, filmmaking is more than just directing. It's producing, it's writing, it's casting, it's managing people. But for you, it's also advocacy. So how does your background as an animal rights supporter and a humanitarian shape the way you tell human stories on screen?
I think when you grow up and you look at the value of life, and you have these things and you watch them, it changes who you are. And I happen to run a consulting business in Canada, and I won't go down that road at all. But I've kind of believe I've run the business that way as well. It's with an element of humanity and kindness. It's not, I believe that if you enjoy what you do, you do with credibility and ethics and morality. You know what, the prosperity will follow you. The number one isn't the money; it's down the line in your decision process. So I think when I went into this and trying to decide what because there's limited time when you're doing these things. They take a lot of time, and what do you want to tell? So is it something innocuous that has that's a good story, or is it something that actually has meaning and value? And I couldn't think of a better thing to do with my time than this type of a project.
Now, Abigail, from sprint triathlons to brand campaigns with Nike and Google, I mean, you've partnered with some of the biggest names out there, but now you're stepping into storytelling, which is what you've always dreamed of doing full time. Do you see acting as your new chapter right now in your advocacy? And if you do see it as that new chapter, what kind of stories would you like to tell next or be part of?
Marvel. I wanted to expand my horizons and maybe a villain.
Drama's definitely a part of her future.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Your vision is magnetic, and you're not just breaking ground, you're building the stage for others to follow. So there's a lot of people cheering you on. Steve, so many families navigating disability feel isolated or just uncertain in those early years, but your story offers them something rare, proof that thriving is in fact very real and very possible. So what message would you give to other parents who might feel overwhelmed after a diagnosis?
When you get a diagnosis of a child that's going to have a disability, I think there is a lot of very dark message that comes with it. I think people in the medical field are the first ones that you speak to, and they have often a lot of gloom and doom. But here's my advice is that you don't give all the credence in the world to the experts. They know a lot about a lot of things, but they don't know everything about everything. So your role as a parent is to give your child every opportunity that you can for them to be successful. That's really the point, is don't be focused on what other people will think. Don't be concerned about other people's opinions. You need to push forward and know that it may take a little bit longer, and just plan on that.
Right. And there's something else that you said in one of the other interviews. You said community. You said community is key for you and Abigail. I remember in one of you've been on many times, but you reminded me of community. And I think that that's also something important, because you do have a huge community of friends and family and the Down syndrome community, all advocating for Abigail and for you and for others in similar situations. And having that ability to rely on others or to even get an applause from others is so meaningful. It's the little things that
you're
count.
absolutely right. Having the support of other people, there's a world full of good people just waiting for an opportunity to do something good. And if you get out there and you show that you're trying to do something constructive, you're trying to do something positive, people will come to your aid, come and help you. So there's a lot of good people. You just need to let them know where they can find you.
It was a pleasure having you both on. Abigail, you're not just a triathlete and a model and an actress. You're a symbol of what happens when belief meets opportunity. And thanks to the creative lens of Suresh, Thrift store is going to help redefine what inclusion can look like in cinema. So I thank you both for coming. And Steve, thank you always for being there for her.
Thank you, Zen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
To follow Abigail's journey, head to abigailtheadvocate.com, and you can follow her all over social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and on the gram at Abigail_the_advocate. And to learn more about the film, you can head to SureShCedrick.com and follow the production updates on Instagram at Suresh Cedrick Films, or you can head directly to his personal page at Suresh Cedrick. And remember, whether it's on screen or in real life, hydrate with purpose, hydrate with heart. Special thanks to Once Upon a Coconut for powering this conversation and movement. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
Discover the refreshing taste of 100% pure coconut water that actually tastes great. Naturally sweet with no artificial flavors or added sugar. It's packed with electrolytes to keep you hydrated throughout your day. And with 10% of profits going to charity, every sip makes a difference. Pure taste, pure goodness. Experience nature's Gatorade. Visit Once Upon a Coconut or naturesgatorade.com.